This is an adventure on my part. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't resist before winding everything up.
Right.
Couldn't resist including this piece from an early phase of ancient Greek song culture. It's sort of semi-hemi-demi Homeric. You could call it Homeric.
Right.
And certainly the ancient world thought of it as something that was performed
the
by
Homeric.
Homer once upon a time.
Right.
And here, the song focuses on the god Dionysus.
Right.
And in many ways, what you see in this micro-narrative, it's a micro-narrative
very
compared
short
to
song,
Euripides' drama, The Bacchae, which we studied when we were in hour 21.
Right.
It is a micro-narrative, and the wording in some key passages here is so accurate that I thought it was a good way to start wrapping things up.
Okay.
And it certainly has a great deal to do with salvation in the sense that
Right.
the key to salvation is thinking ritual thoughts
Right.
in a correct way,
Uh-huh.
which means learning what needs to be learned from myth,
Right.
which is a world of catastrophe,
Mm-hmm.
and applying that learning to the here and now, and thinking of a continuum from myth to the ritual of the present, a continuum that is supposed to go on forever. It's easier to think of it in a cyclical way,
Right.
but the bottom line, no pun intended, is that it has to be forever.
Right.
And here we have a group of sailors who are behaving like pirates.
Right.
So they're morally incorrect. And they're punished by being turned into dolphins. And this is very primordial
Right.
because in terms of this myth,
Uh-huh.
dolphins happen right here for the first time.
These are the first dolphins.
These are the first dolphins ever.
Right.
And there are other things that happen that are real firsts. For example, Dionysus turns the sea into wine.
Right.
So just as Dionysus and Demeter together are sacramental in that Dionysus stands for wine,
Right.
Demeter stands for bread,
Right.
so also they can be both microcosmic and macrocosmic.
Mm-hmm.
The wine and the bread can also be, if I can put it symbolically, the sea
Mm-hmm.
and earth.
Okay.
And Dionysus himself can turn a cup of wine,
Mm-hmm.
the wine is sloshing inside the cup,
Mm-hmm.
into the sea,
Right.
where the sea is wine and it's sloshing against the hull of the ship.
Right.
Microcosm, macrocosm. And when we think about those ornamental adjectives for the sea,
Why not?
like having the looks of wine,
Right.
oinos,
Mm-hmm.
which is sometimes translated as wine dark, but there's no
Dark.
dark
Yep.
in the original Greek word. Even that ornamental adjective goes back to this primal moment when
Right.
Dionysus manifests himself in a cosmic epiphany,
Right.
and the first dolphins happen. The sea momentarily turns into a cup of wine.
Mm-hmm.
The distinction between Dionysus and Demeter realizes itself
Right.
in terms of the contrast between terra firma, or Mother Earth, so to
Mhm.
speak, and the sea that surrounds the earth. It's all
Right.
here.
Right.
And what I'm saying is that you have to have the mentality to get this.
Right.
And if you have the right mentality, then you're saved.
Right.
You achieve salvation.
It's about how much you understand of what's going on around you.
And so who's the human who manages to survive this catastrophe and myth
Mhm.
and become the prototype for the ritual correctness of
Right.
worshiping
Right.
Dionysus in a moderate way?
Right.
Well, it's the Kubernētēs.
Right.
And there he is at
He's-
line 15. I like to translate that as steersman, because if we say helmsman,
Right.
I don't know about you, but I think of a sailor that is steering a ship
Right.
with a
These
steering
guys have-
wheel.
These guys have a,
And we're not dealing with steering wheel, we're
They have
dealing
an
with
oar.
a steering oar, a
Yep.
huge steering oar.
right,
And that's what he's steering with.
right.
But let's think about Kubernētēs just a little bit. We talked about that when we were studying the Bacchae back in hour 21. And this is the word that's borrowed into Latin by way of Etruscan as gubernator, which then gives us such words as governor, government, governance. So the very idea of government,
Uh-huh.
which is so basic for us when we academically study society,
Right.
that's already here. The
It's
ship
built
of
into
state-
this whole story. Yep.
This whole story. The ship of state is already here, except it's still a rogue ship of state with bad people in
Pirates.
the crew,
Yep.
except for that one survivor who
Right.
then becomes the prototype for what true government is and what a balanced society really is.
Right.
Kubernētēs. And so he's got the right idea from the beginning. He's a model of nous, as we see in line 15.
Yep.
And then when Dionysus finally addresses him and says,
Right.
you're saved,
Yep.
everyone else turns into dolphins.
Right.
You're saved, and the reason he is saved is that he has a heart that is sōphrōn. And now we finally get it, that sōphrōn, which we usually translate as moderate,
Or prudent.
means
Yeah.
literally he who has or she who has a mind that is saved.
Yep. Yep.
So the idea of a mentality that links to salvation, that's what the Kubernētēs, the proto-pilot, the proto-steersman,
Right.
is a model for. And that is why the catastrophe of myth, where you have this voyage where everything goes wrong,
Right.
can lead to the idea of the ship of state, the well-functioning government,
Right.
the ship that is, may I say it this way, on an even keel.
Right. Right.
It's all here, and it's all in terms of the steersman of a ship. A kind of cybernetics,
Right.
and I'm deliberately using that word because that is also derived
from the
from
same root.
Kubernētēs.
Yep.
A kind of cybernetics of what an ideal state should be. And then to close it off, Dionysus says to the Kubernētēs,
Yep.
the exponent of an ideal government, of an ideal state, may I say an ideal republic,
Right.
you have achieved beauty and pleasure for my heart.
Right.
Kharis, the beauty and the pleasure, which is, of course, expressed through poetry. And the implication is that whoever is saying these words
Right.
is, shall we say, the channeler of the Kubernētēs himself,
Right.
who has been inspired by Dionysus.
So what about the fact that he recognizes that it's a god? That's a
That's
key
the
piece
key.
as well, right?
That's the key to salvation.
Right. To understand the difference between it and can you explain a bit?
Well, I think of the Christian way of saying this. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. So the native son comes to his people, and the people reject him as an alien.
Right. Right. That's not good.
Mistake.
Yes.
It's a big mistake.
Exactly. It's the same
And-
syndrome. Exactly.
And it's not recognizing difference and recognizing only cookie cutter sameness.
Yep.
And that's what Dionysus
Yeah.
is against, because he's the god of fusion.
Right. And it's not being tuned into the ultimate
Yes.
realities. Yep.
So the ultimate balance is to recognize difference
Yep.
and sameness
Yep. Beautiful.
together.
Beautiful.